This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN, more on them later. Yo, what's going on guys? It's gmeiners here, and in this video we are going over the best high stat roll armor farming methods in Destiny 2 that are going to be available this season. If you guys are interested in making triple or maybe even quadruple 100 stat roll builds for your characters, I'm going to be going over exactly how to get this done, and even if you just want to get some decent stats, you're going to be able to apply the exact same method too. Hopping straight into things, if you guys are new to Destiny or just aren't as familiar with how stats work in the game, a good piece of armor is typically going to roll with around 64 to 68 total stat points. This will always be RNG, so you will not be able to control the exact number of points you are getting. However, better activities will always have a higher chance at dropping armor in this range. For legendaries, 68 points are the absolute max. Exotics, I think, can get up to 71 or 72 points, but that is extremely rare. Most of the time, I see some confusion on this in the comments when making new armor farming guides. If you do have something higher than 68 on a legendary, it is either from a very specific set or outdated armor. After getting something like a 68 base roll, which as I mentioned is the max, we are then going to be able to masterwork the armor, which will add plus 2 points to each stat, which means our armor piece jumps up to an 80 stat roll in total. And then lastly, we are going to be able to add one additional stat mod for plus 10 to any stat we choose, which brings up this total to 90 stat points. This season in Destiny, we do also have additional stat mods that are available in the artifact, so this is another way that you could potentially add some extra stat points in Season 19, which may or may not be around in following seasons as well. After doing this for all 4 pieces of gear, we are going to have 90 points for each, which will bring us up to a total of 360 stat points. You are also going to be able to masterwork a class item and add another armor mod to this, which is plus 22 points. So we hit 382 in total as a maximum. And even if we were just to get something like 64 stat rolls across the board, this is still going to be 366 stat points at base, which is much more than enough for most builds. If you guys did want to boost this even more, there are 2 other things that you can add to your armor / your stat setup. First are going to be combat style mods that provide stat boosts. The mod Powerful Friends adds plus 20 mobility anytime you run this with another arc combat style mod or just another arc mod on the same piece of armor. This is great for hunters, and then Radiant Light on the other hand works the exact same way but gives you plus 20 strength, which is going to be great for melee builds. After this, you can get an additional 50 stat points from fragments you choose in the subclass you are running. These are obviously going to be different areas depending on the fragments available. So now using absolutely everything, you could get up to 472 stat points across your character, which is enough for triple and even quadruple 100 stat builds. Personally, when it comes to the fragments, I would much rather have better fragments on my build than just pick ones which give me better stats. In Destiny, that tends to be the better route for most things you are running, but if you guys do really want that high stat build, then choose whatever you want. The next most important thing to understand is how stats are distributed in Destiny, and more importantly, how you can manipulate this to give yourself the best armor possible. This is going to give us the biggest advantage possible towards efficiently farming, but as gamers, there's really no bigger advantage than having a VPN you trust on your side. Surfshark VPN allows you to stay protected and keep your life private even while connected to millions of players online. I've personally been victim to DDoS attacks while trying to go flawless in trials or even playing multiplayer games other than Destiny, and nothing feels worse than being completely powerless against somebody who is throttling your router and could potentially have access to your private information too. Surfshark VPN will keep your IP address information hidden and even has an IP rotator that constantly changes your IP address, making it harder for you to be targeted with attacks, all while keeping your information private. One of my favorite parts about a VPN is that it also allows you to access media and movies that are typically hidden in your own country. It's Christmas time and my family always watches the Harry Potter movies as a tradition, but it's blocked on Netflix in the US. Just by using a VPN, we have access to these movies and thousands more in other countries, and this doesn't even scratch the surface of all the other features that Surfshark comes with. Just use promo code gmeiners or click the links in the description below to get yourself an 85% discount plus 3 additional months completely free of charge, along with a 30-day money-back guarantee where you can sign up, cancel for any reason, and get your money back straight into your pockets. There is literally zero reason to not sign up and try this out for 1 month. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and let's hop back into some Destiny. Stats on armor pieces are going to be grouped into 2 groupings, otherwise known as stat buckets. This is going to be the top bucket of 3 stats and then the bottom bucket, aka mobility, recovery, and resilience, and then discipline, intellect, and strength. Whenever an armor piece is rolled in game, the top group and bottom group are going to roll independently. Each group is also going to hold a max of 34 stat points. If both groups get the max stats possible, this is where the number 68 comes from. Each group has 34, and each stat will also always have a minimum value of 2 points. You can never roll any armor with, say, 0 or 1 in any stat. I have a full video going over this in detail linked below, but what it means for us is that on any piece of armor, the most points we can get in any one stat is going to be 30 points. By using a ghost, we are going to be able to manipulate armor to drop with more points in a stat of our choosing. The Discipline Armorer mod, for example, will guarantee that we get at least 10 points in Discipline for every armor piece we roll, with a chance at much more than just those 10 points. The groupings come into play with this Ghost Armorer mod because if we focus for any one stat, chances are we are going to have that stat take up most of the group. If we choose resilience and get something like 24 resilience on an armor piece, that doesn't leave much room for mobility or recovery. This means in any typical build where you are going for triple 100 stats, or you just want 3 stats as high as possible, then you want to put the Armorer mod on the stat that is in its own grouping. This also means that you cannot get triple 100s in the same grouping. So if you wanted high mobility, recovery, and resilience, it's going to be impossible. I tend to focus my armor in the current meta on discipline. That way I get a ton of discipline on my base armor pieces, and I keep anything with a decent amount of resilience and recovery. This usually allows my base armor sets to max out my discipline. Then I get average recovery and resilience, and I can just add more armor mods to boost these stats. This is a very basic way to get the rolls that you want when farming high stat armor, but it's very important if you want to save your time. The last and final part of this video is where you can actually farm high stat armor rolls. First and foremost is going to be Master Dungeons. More specifically, right now you can farm Master Spire of the Watcher anytime, and the final encounter can drop high stat roll Artifice armor for all armor pieces. In my personal opinion, Duality is a much faster farm. The stat rolls should be very identical here, but Duality is only ever around to be farmed on Master Mode during certain weeks. Spire will be the next best place to farm, and since it is the beginning of the next season, getting a clear will be pretty hard as we are under power, but give it a few weeks and it will become super easy. After this is Master Raids, also harder to farm during the first few weeks of a season. However, these always have armor that is focused in a specific stat. This is going to be a great way to guarantee high stats for 2 different stats at the same time, and the rolls tend to always be 60 plus with a high chance at 64 to 68 roll drops. Master Raids are also around when the raid is farmable, which means you can keep farming the easiest encounter that drops the armor you need. Third up is the Helm Vendors. This season, with the first upgrade in the top row, you have access to high stat rolled Season of the Seraph armor. This just takes some Umbral energy, legendary shards, and an Umbral engram. But this is a great way to come and get some last minute armor pieces to complete a build, especially if solo farming. Do keep in mind all the previous seasonal vendors also work the exact same way, so you can do this with new vendors or even the pre-existing ones. After this is still going to be Master Throne World activities. These include Master Wellspring and the Master Campaign missions that reward high stat Veritas armor. These also have some additional drops which are worth farming for, and something like Master Wellspring is going to be the easiest place to farm overall if you're comfortable using LFG teams. Lastly, we have base raids and dungeons. Most raids and dungeons are going to give okay armor rolls, okay being commonly in the lower 60s. If a lot of the harder activities are out of reach for you, start with these and then work your way up. A lot of you guys mentioned on my previous high stat roll video that farming the Pit of Heresy boss was one of the best places to farm. Anytime in general a dungeon or raid is on a weekly rotation is typically going to be your best bet to farm, as you can do it endlessly. I've been making this video each and every season as players are always looking for new places to find high stat armor farms and to see if any sources have become outdated. Let me know if there's anything else you guys enjoy farming in the community and if it's more efficient than anything I listed. Definitely make sure to check out Surfshark VPN through the links below, and I do also stream a bunch over on my Twitch where we do low mans and speedruns live. A link to that and my Discord server are in the description. Anyways, that's all for this video, guys. As always, have a good one. Peace.